Welcome into a live Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, also at Running with the Timberwolves podcast at RWTWOLVESPC. And we have been covering the trade deadline like a blanket. In fact, we're probably going to do another show tonight, but I just wanted to pop in here to talk about the Wolves transition today, which I am ecstatic about. I'll just go right off the bat and say that I love this trade. I love everything about what Tim Connelly has done so far in the trade deadline. I think we're getting to the last hour here. We'll see if something else comes in. But this Dosunmu trade, I am ecstatic about. By the way, like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating, or Apple as well. And also, if you're watching live on YouTube or on Twitter, let me know what you think of this Dosunmu move for the Timberwolves. Like I said off the bat, I think it is fantastic. I think this is a great move for the Wolves. The first reason is you didn't have to give up anything. Now, I know there are some Rob Dillingham truthers out there, and I feel for you. I wanted to root for the guy as well. I really did. I thought there was potential when we moved up to get the sixth man out of Kentucky, when we traded some picks away to go get him. I thought there was absolutely potential for him to be really, really good, and it just hasn't worked out. And let's be completely honest, this is just as good for Rob Dillingham as it is for the Minnesota Timberwolves, because they needed a new landscape. They needed Rob Dillingham needed a new landscape. He needed a new place to go and play. He's going to have plenty of opportunity with the Chicago Bulls, I think, because they're making a ton of moves and their team makes no sense. But if he stays with the Bulls, he's going to have plenty of opportunity to show what he can do. So I hope Rob does well, and I hope that people are tweeting when the first night that he goes for 20 and we're like, oh, I wish we would have had him. Hopefully, Dosunmu here is going to be a great guy that we can plug and play and be a part of our bench, which we'll talk about in a second. But the correct response for Rob is to feel good for him, because if he sits on the Wolves bench for another year, his value is just going to tank. It's just going to completely bottom out, and we're not going to be able to get anything for him. So credit for Tim Connelly for looking at his mistake, saying, oh no, this didn't work out for us. I traded capital for him, but I'm going to get something for him before he becomes valueless sitting on our bench. And Leonard Miller, I like the guy. I've watched him in Summer League a little bit. I've actually been to a few of those games where they're playing like the Israeli team, or I think I saw a game where they played that Chinese team with Victor Oladipo, and Leonard was looking pretty good out there. But I mean, let's be honest, the Wolves, other than some second-round picks, which actually we'll talk with Chris tonight, who is actually higher on those second-round picks, I don't really care about those second-round picks. Now, is that a little bit of irony, considering that Dosunmu, the guy that I am sky high on right now, which we'll talk about in just a second, the guy that I love, this Dosunmu, and I know I'm going to keep screwing up his name, but I'll get it right as we get into the playoffs and down the stretch here. But he was a second-round pick, so maybe it's the pot calling the kettle black. Maybe we could have used one of those second-round picks to get another guy like this, but I think this is just a sure thing. Now, let's get on to the AO part of this whole thing. I think it's perfect. I think it gives the Wolves a point guard off the bench they desperately needs, and a scoring threat off the bench. I have heard some people say that they think he's going to start. I'm not sure. I think they would go with DiVincenzo to start with. Maybe it's a competition going forward, but I do think this is an absolute win for the Timberwolves. And another thing about AO is he can be re-signed. Like, we retained his bird rights. So I think with Kobe White, what the Wolves, and the reason that we were actually talking about it on last night with Andrew Dukowitz, you can go check that out on this channel or on this Twitter page as well. I think the reason that the Wolves passed on Kobe White when they could have had him in the Mike Conley transaction, the trade for Mike Conley, I think there was doubt that they could trade Kobe White in the offseason. Excuse me, not trade, but re-sign Kobe White in the offseason. So I think that is a big reason that they decided to go with Ayo Dosunmu. And hey, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I said last night on Andrew Dukowitz's podcast, watch for the Chicago Bulls. Watch for these Bulls guard. I mean, we did a video on it a little bit ago, which you can check out on this channel, and we ranked the Bulls guards that we would want. And to be honest, on my list, Ayo Dosunmu was pretty high on my list. So I'm psyched about this. And let's just get into Ayo a little bit here. Obviously went to the University of Illinois, 6'4", 200 pounds. So here's another thing with this guy versus Rob, Ayo versus Rob, is you get a lot more girth. You get a lot more height with him. You're not going to get killed on defense like you would with Rob Dillingham. And, I mean, the biggest thing, he's going to play. And Rob Dillingham, barring horrible injury. I mean, you saw it last night, right? Now, obviously, Chris Finch may have known this trade was coming in the morning, so that's maybe why he did this. He went with – sorry, I got a little bit of a cold. But he went with Johnny Juzang over Rob Dillingham. And there's been decisions where Joe Ingles goes in instead of him. Let's just say the decision on Rob was made probably midway through this year, and I think they saw this coming. But, yeah, I mean, Ayo Dosunmu is exactly what this team needs. Decent defender. He's shooting 45% from three on 4.5 attempts. I like that a lot. In fact, I saw this tweet. I'll give full credit from Wolves Lead. Only 2 players have 15-plus points and 45+% from three, and that's Jaden McDaniels and Ayo Dosunmu. So both on this team. You got to love that. I mean, also what I see here from his stats, 54% from the field. That's pretty good for a guard. He takes about 10.5 attempts per game. And you know what that's telling me? That's telling me that he's taking the best shots in the NBA right now. So he's taking threes, and then he's getting to the rim. Now, remember, there's several guys on this team, like a Jalen Clark or a Dante DiVincenzo, that struggle to get to the rim, right? Like they're not great finishers at the rim. Ayo is a very good finisher at the rim. Like I think Dante's shooting overall like somewhere like 42% from the field. Still pretty good from three, but that tells me that he's not finishing at the rim that much. And you can see that in the efficiency numbers as well for Dante DiVincenzo. And man, I love this. I love this so much. I said the entire trade season that I was out on Giannis. I'm sorry. I was absolutely out on Giannis. And I will tell you why I was right after a word from our sponsor.
Today's show is brought to you by 612tees.com. Cole at 612tees designs awesome shirts for yourself or the Wolves fan in your life. Check them out at 612tees.com and use the promo code RUN25 at checkout, or just click on the link in the description to get 25% off your purchase. That's at 612tees.com. Link in the description.
Yeah, check them out, 612tees.com. In fact, I'm wearing one of the shirts right here. I don't know if you can see it on stream, but use the link in the description. Go to 612tees.com. Use promo code RUN25. Get 25% off your purchase. It's a great time to jump on board. I actually asked him if he's working on some Ayo designs, and I think he's hard at work getting those ready, so I'm excited for that. So why I was out on Giannis, and don't get me wrong, I've been a Wolves fan since I was 9 years old, which is over 20 years ago. I understand why people wanted him so much, because I've been through these trade deadlines and free agencies where the biggest guy we could get is a David Lee, right? Like where we're excited that Quentin Richardson is coming in to save the franchise, right? But So I understand how big of a fish and the opportunity here with Anthony Edwards. I understand the stakes right now because I've been through it. I've been through all of the years where tickets were like $2 and they're basically paying you to come see the Wolves get beat by 20, pretty much. I've been through the Sebastian Telfair years, the Ryan Gomes years. I've been through all of this. So I understand why it was such a big priority for a ton of Wolves fans to get a guy like Giannis and pair him with Anthony Edwards. Why I was out on Giannis, the injury stuff. He's older, hasn't been an MVP since the pandemic, really. Hasn't won a championship in a while, hasn't had playoff success, has had, like I said, had injury issues. And I just thought that if we could get a guard to supplement our bench and kind of strengthen where we're weak at, we could do something with the team already constructed. I wasn't ready to give up on guys like Jaden or Nas or Dante or even Julius yet. I could see Julius maybe go at some point, but I don't think yet. And in fact, I was talking to Andrew last night, and he was saying if Julius has a big, huge playoff run and he's fantastic, imagine what we could get for him next offseason. That's the thing. This offseason, if it doesn't work, like let's say Ayo's a bust and we don't even want to bring him back and things go wrong, I am all for going big star hunting, Like I'm all for it. Maybe Giannis is there. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's a Donovan Mitchell. Maybe it's a Joel Embiid. And you can have your differing opinions on these different options for the Wolves. But I think this offseason, they're going to be there. And just talking to Andrew Dukowitz throughout these last couple of days, by the way, I'm hoping to have him on tonight. It's made it clear to me that I think just tinkering was the better move for the Timberwolves for sure. And that's why I love this Dosunmu move. Like I said, you have to give up nothing, like nothing. Like, let's be honest. Was Leonard Miller, barring a massive injury or a cholera breakout on the team, was Leonard Miller going to be part of this playoff run? No. Barring half the team getting polio, was Rob Dillingham going to be part of this playoff run or even end of the season run? No, probably not. So that's why I love this trade so much. And going over some of the other points, I mean, the Wolves 23rd in bench scoring. And let's be completely honest, most of that is Naz Reid. Like how much is Jalen Clark scoring a night? 3, maybe 4 points. How much is Bones getting consistently? A couple. And we'll have to see how much they go with Bones, how much they go with Ayo. I think this diminishes Bones' role. But at the same time, if Ayo has it going, or excuse me, Bones has it going and Ayo doesn't, just put in one, get rid of the, don't put in the other one. Maybe they can play together. It should be interesting. And another thing, like I was talking about Jalen Clark, with this Ayo move, his ability to get to the rim and the Wolves' lack of ability to get to the rim sometimes, it gives guys like Jalen Clark less pressure to do stuff on offense, because if no one's doing anything on offense and it's just Nas with when Randall and Ant aren't out there, I mean, that's a tough spot where Jalen feels like, oh, I have to chuck up this 3, or oh, I got to attack the basket. But I think if you have another scorer out there, someone who can control the offense, and Dosunmu here, I think that's going to help, guys like Jalen Clark fit into the role where they want to play. They want to be scrappy. They want to be a Jose Alvarado, right? Like they want to sneak up behind the point guard after a made basket and steal the ball away and play good defense. I think this takes pressure off of some of the guys so they can focus on what they're actually good at. And like I said, the 3-point shooting, best year of his career, basically career highs. We're basically getting him at his peak. And what you got to remember is this kid is 26 years old. He should be going into his prime right now. He was just drafted in 2020, 2021, so the 2021 offseason in that draft. And he's been good for the Bulls. The Bulls have been stockpiling guards, and they're kind of having a fire sale right now. And I think the Wolves were able to pounce on it and get a nice stock part of their stockpile of players here, and I think Ayo Dosunmu is going to be great. But let me know in the comments, like, share, and subscribe, and let me know, do you think that Ayo is going to be a good fit here? Like I said, tonight we're going to talk to Chris. We'll have him on the show. We're also going to have Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage MN. We've really been pumped to talk to him and getting his perspective. Not a great rebounder, Ayo is, but I think the Wolves in that scenario rely on Rudy and gang rebounding as well. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. The rebounding only averages about 3 a game, but what he does bring, scoring, a little bit of passing, some defense, I think is exactly what the Wolves need. And I've been saying it the entire trade deadline. Tinker, don't blow it up yet. Don't blow it up yet. I think there's too much there. We've seen this team last year and the year before. Now, obviously, the year before, Towns was there, so it was a little different. But we saw this team, particularly last year, turn it on when it mattered most. And maybe this move and last night, getting the Toronto losing streak off of our back, was the first was the first part of our run here. Maybe we go on a run with Ayo Dosunmu. I mean, we got the Pelicans tomorrow. You got to feel good about that. No promises, right? You never know, but you got to feel good about beating a Pelicans team, hopefully at home. And then, you're off to the races. We're the 5 seed right now, guys. I mean, as much as doom and gloom, and I saw on Twitter, it's so easy to go on Twitter when the Wolves are down by 15 in the third quarter, and it's trade deadline tomorrow, and go, oh my gosh, you got to trade Randall, Jaden sucks, Nas sucks, we got to trade them all. But you got to remember, guys, that's not how front offices work. If they traded a guy every time someone had a bad game, there'd be no one left, right? Like if Kobe went 5 for 25 in a game, are they going to go trade him? And believe me, I'm not saying Julius Randle is Kobe. Do not get, although they did play on the same team, but do not get that misconstrued. What I am saying is that I think there's so much potential with this team, particularly now that we got another bench piece here, and maybe he starts a little bit, who knows? But I mean, if we're all healthy, think about this. Think about our bench depth. It almost kind of goes back to last year when you had DiVincenzo and Nas. And at times, I'm not saying all year, but at times it felt like we had 2 front runners for 6 men of the year. It almost felt like we had 2 solid 6 men, which is awesome. And I love it that we had 2 solid 6 men. And maybe Ayo can do that again here. I mean, what was he going to do in Chicago? Be part of the mess that is the Chicago Bulls right now? I don't think so. And then, of course, I think the Wolves think that they can re-sign him in the offseason. They do have his bird rights, minus him going in Fuego and just taking over this team and Anthony Edwards becoming the second fiddle, which, believe me, I don't think will happen. I think he's going to be very affordable in the offseason. I think this is a long-term piece. Like I said, I think Kobe White was a short-term piece. I think that Kobe White was a plug-and-play for a season, and then he goes and sees what he can get in the open market. I think that Ayo Dosunmu could be a Wolf for a couple years and fills a little bit of the gap filled by Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I'm not saying that Ayo Dosunmu is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Do not get that construed. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that this helps our front line a lot, and this helps our bench a lot, and it helps our depth a lot, and it helps our guard depth a lot, and it helps our flow a lot. And I love this trade. I was saying maybe buy out Collick Sexton, maybe DeMar DeRozan on the buyout market. I still think there's stuff that can be done on the buyout market, but I think this is a slam dunk for Tim Connelly and the Timberwolves. And one note on the media, and I don't know exactly what was going on, like Shams last night saying, don't sleep, because Giannis might be traded. And he didn't say that directly, but he said the don't sleep, or he keeps fanning the flames, or all these media members coming out of nowhere saying, oh, Giannis is the number 1 on the list is Minnesota, or he wants to go to Minnesota. Or how about this? I don't know their sources. I don't know how much validity there is to it. But can we not throw out random stuff that isn't true? Like, if you're not 100% sure that what's actually going on, do not put out a tweet that says, oh, sources are telling me, blah, blah, blah. I don't care who your sources are, because nothing ended up happening. And what you got to remember with the Shams thing, ESPN, that quote where he said that don't sleep because something could happen with Giannis. My guess is that ESPN, by the way, Entertainment Sports Network or whatever it stands for, told him that he should say something to get people to be tuned into ESPN for the rest of the day or night. I think there's a good chance he may have known full well that Giannis was going nowhere, but they told him to throw something out, and he threw something out, and people got interested, and more people watched. And then once they got those morning ratings, they're like, oh, yeah, Giannis isn't going anywhere. Okay. Whatever, Shams. I don't know. I kind of miss Woj, to be completely honest with you, but oh well. Oh well. But anyway, if you're just tuning in, like, share, and subscribe. Give a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple. Again, the Timberwolves, they get Dosunmu, and I love it. 15 points a game. 41% from the field, 45% from three. Oh, by the way, one of the Wolves' biggest weaknesses, free throw shooting, and that comes from the top to the bottom. That goes for Anthony Edwards. Even Jalen Clark clanked too last night. Rudy Gobert is always going to clank a bunch. But guess what? Dosunmu, 85% from the line this year. Efficient field goal percentage of 60%. Guys, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, feel free to clip this and tell me how wrong I am. And you can tell me right now in the comments, but I think this is the best move. Maybe not the best, but this is a fantastic move that the Wolves made today. And 5 stars, in my opinion. This is exactly what I wanted to see happen at the trade deadline for the Timberwolves, and I honestly could not be more happy. I think this will pay dividends. I'm not saying that Dosunmu is going to win you a playoff series, but I will say that bench depth does help in playoff series. Look at the Lakers last year and JJ Redick, what he did. He ran out of players, and he took his old guys, not old guys, but veterans like Luka and Austin and LeBron, and said, hey, you're going to play 44 minutes. I'm playing you as hard as I can last night, and it just did not work. Depth is huge in the playoffs. And, maybe the window's opening a little bit for the Wolves, right? I mean, think about Shea. I'm not saying Shea is going to be hurt all year, but he's banged up a little bit now. Joker's been banged up a little bit. Maybe it's a little more open. LeBron's always in and out. Like, who knows? Maybe the West is a little more open. Who knows with Kevin Durant, how long he is going to last? Maybe he breaks down. But I think at the end of the day, you get a guy who can score off the bench, who can shoot the ball, who can make plays happen. And what do you really give up? Now, I know if you really look at it, you could say you gave up those picks for Rob, but that's not the way I'm choosing to look at it. I'm choosing to look at it in a way where the Wolves got someone up on their bench, can score, make stuff happen, and enhance their bench. I'd be interested if he comes off the bench. If he's like the second guy off the bench. We're 23rd right now. I'll bet you our bench rating and bench scoring goes up. I really do. And at the end of the day, that's really all we need, because who's going to have the ball in crunch time? It's not going to be Dosunmu. So I think this is a home run move for the Timberwolves. Oh, yeah, the Wolves also got someone else, didn't they? Julian Phillips. Let me know in the chat. Where are my Julian Phillips fans out there? I got to be honest, guys. I know very little about him. So let's just look at his bio. He's from Killeen, Texas. 22 years old. Went to Tennessee. Been in the league for 2 years. Hasn't really done anything. And it's just one of those guys that salary filler, Who knows? I don't know. But maybe he's something. Maybe he's the new Leonard Miller. Like Chris was saying on last podcast, maybe he's the new bench mob guy. Maybe he's the pointer if he even makes the team. Maybe he brings back the point. Maybe he reincarnates the spirit of Daishion Nix, and he's the new pointer on this team, if he even makes it. Maybe he goes straight to Iowa. I don't know. I don't know much about him. He's a small forward. That's pretty much all you need to know. And by the way, guys, thanks so much for watching this. I can see the numbers going up on YouTube and on X as well. It's such an exciting day. I'm trying to keep my eye on other moves going down. I see that Zubac went to the Indiana Pacers. So interesting move for them. Looks like Charlotte Hornets are trading Tyus Jones to the Mavericks for Mikal Brennan. Great. Honestly, I'm sorry, and I know there's a lot of Minnesota fans that love Tyus Jones. I know that full well, and I get it. Believe me, okay, not a humble brag here, but if we would have beat Hopkins in an AAU tournament, I probably would have been guarding Tyus Jones. Not successfully, but we were this close to playing Tyus Jones. So I get it. He's a Minnesota boy. He went to Duke, win his championship. He's a hero. But man, his play has gone downhill. Like Tyus Jones has been horrible this year. And I listen to No Dunks all the time, that podcast, and they talk about Tyus. And, his assist to turnover ratio is really, really good. It's still elite in the league. But that's because, and by the way, full credit to Trey from No Dunks on this. That's because his passing decisions are easy. He's making the easy pass. He's not blowing anyone the way. He's just a swing man at this point, and he cannot shoot right now. So with the Mavs, we'll see if he gets a chance. I don't know. But anyway, on our end, I think we got an absolute winner in Ayo Dosunmu. I think it's perfect. Remember, he's 26 years old. He's on Ant's timeline. He's signable next year. I don't think he's going to demand the world salary-wise. I think this is an excellent move by Tim Connelly. And while everyone else was going, oh, Giannis, what is Tim Connelly doing? He's making a little trade here to make a little more space for a guy. He's trading Connelly. He's pick swapping. And what does he do? Bam, he goes in and gets the guy that he wanted. And I think this is the perfect move for the Timberwolves. And like I said, if I'm wrong, call me out on it. Please remind me if Ayo Dosunmu is the worst thing to ever happen to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Please call me out and say this was a horrible move. But from everything I am seeing and everything I'm seeing on the internet, every trade grades for the Wolves, if we're giving this a trade grade, I mean, right now it's an A+ for me. Now, Chris, I think may be closer. I can't speak for him. He may be closer to an A or A-, maybe even a B, because I think he's higher on the second round picks. He was explaining it earlier in our group chat. I was working, so I didn't really have the opportunity to read it, but I'm all about this. This is what I wanted the entire time, and I feel kind of greedy, and like it's my birthday, and everyone else is having a horrible day. Like coming to my birthday, their like tire went out, and they were on a windshield wiper fluid. And so they had to stop, and then they got pulled over. But I'm having the best day of my life because I know there's a lot of people disappointed about Giannis. And I know, and I believe, like I said earlier, I get it. I 100% get it. Someone like that would have been a huge get for not only for the Timberwolves, for Minnesota in general. That would have been huge. I just think this offseason, you're going to have opportunities to get guys like Giannis, like other guy, Donovan Mitchell. I think you'll have shots at Joel Embiid. Maybe there's other guys that you can. I think the world is going to be your oyster in this offseason. That's what I think Tim Connelly realized, that, hey, man, let's just improve this team. That, by the way, like the 5th best start in franchise history, up there. Like, let's not forget that in all of this. One of the best starts in franchise history. Now, I know a lot of the Wolves' history has been absolute garbage. I understand that. Believe me, I've been there for, I'd say 75% of it. Not the 90s, but okay, maybe not 60% of it. 60% of the garbage I've been there for. So I get it. I get it that a Giannis splash would have been sexy and it would have been cool and we would have been the talk of the NBA. But I also do think that little moves, it's like I talked about on the last podcast. Look at last year's NBA champion, right? What did they do? What did they do to improve their team? They had the guys they drafted in Jalen Williams and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Well, they didn't draft him, but they did trade for him. But he wasn't like a star coming in, right? When he came to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They developed that team. They drafted Chet Holmgren, but what did they do around him? They brought in grit guys. They brought in Isaiah Hartenstein, and they brought in Alex Caruso. That's what they did to win a championship. Now, I'm not saying that Dosunmu is the same move as someone like a Hartenstein or a who did I say? Or a so much talking today. I'm losing who I'm talking about. Oh yeah. Caruso. Yeah, Hartenstein and Caruso. Yeah, thank you. But I'm saying I think the smaller moves can be huge dividends for the Wolves. And I think this is a great move. By the way, I would say probably the middle of the trades that Tim Connelly has done in the trade deadline. Of course, probably the biggest one and the most franchise altering one was probably the Mike Conley for D'Lo trade. That was probably the biggest trade in terms of changing the franchise and what he meant. We'll have to see. Maybe Ayo is here for 5-6 years and he's a lifelong Wolf and it's awesome and he's a perfect piece for this team. Who knows? It's totally possible. But definitely a bigger move here than Monte Morris. I have way more trust that Dosunmu is going to do great things for this team than I do that Monte Morris was going to make an impact on this team. By the way, let me know in the comments what you think of this trade for the Wolves. Like I said, I think this is a slam dunk. I think he had to give up nothing to do it. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry. You weren't going to get an opportunity here. I'm glad that Rob Dillingham is getting somewhat of an opportunity in Chicago or wherever he ends up with. It's been a fun trade deadline, but a stressful trade deadline. I mean, it's just been with all this Giannis stuff and thinking like that half of these guys we spent 5-6 years developing, we're going to go in a whim was just hard for me to stomach. And this podcast, Chris isn't the biggest Nas or Jaden guy. I think that gets overspun. I think he just thinks that Nas and Jaden are who they are. I think he said that a lot. I'm actually higher on both of them. I will admit sometimes I tend to get on Jaden because I think that he can be a little better than he is. But all credit to him. He's been playing awesome this year, and this is the Jaden that I want to see night in and night out. He's always brought the defense if he can bring the offense. He's a guy that is so valuable for a team. And likewise, I think that Dosunmu here is going to be valuable for this team as well. So, guys, we're going to be back later tonight breaking down the trade more fully. Thanks for everyone on X and YouTube as well for joining us today. It was so fun to have you along as we talk about this trade the Wolves made for Dosunmu. You can check us out on Instagram. You can also check us out on Spotify and Apple. Just look at Running with the Timberwolves. YouTube as well. I also do kind of like editorial videos. I may do one for this. I'm not entirely sure. I can already see there's about 112 people on this stream. Oh, by the way, like the Twitter as well if you're watching this, or follow. I should say this has been so much fun. I've loved how this trade deadline has shaken out. I'm loved that Tim Connelly has not panicked over this trade deadline. He didn't think he needed to blow up the entire team to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. And like I said, if you wanted Giannis, I'm sorry that I'm dancing in your rain, but I think this is the way to go. I really do think that this is the way to go. By the way, so yeah, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and as always, go Wolves. Join us tonight with Chris and our very own, and Andrew Dukowitz going to be on the show tonight. I just wanted to jump in. As always, go Wolves, and y'all have a great night.